Sounds great. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I'm Meaghan Long. Been part of SIGGRAPH since 2014. Started out as a student volunteer myself, and it's really exciting to be back as program manager and in 2023 chair next year. But we first need to go to Vancouver for 2022, and our SV program chair is Diana, and we'll be going through this hour, the student volunteer program, how is it tied to SIGGRAPH, and the opportunities that we would love to offer to students to have y'all join us in Vancouver this year. So we're almost at the 50 years, 49 years of celebrating advancements in computer graphics and interactive techniques. And this year in particular will be exciting as we are looking to have a hybrid approach of both in person and also virtually, the volunteering and as attendee experiences. So what does that look like? What does SIGGRAPH look like? In 2019, that was the last time that we had it in person. And what we were offering were lounge spaces for people to connect in person, actually able to interact with the technology with their hands or with the VR, and find opportunities to play with this technology and art. But as we have been going through the past couple of years with events that no one could foresee, we made changes to go virtual. And so that has been going through a portal system by having these talks recorded or in live sessions with various ways for people to interact as we're getting this content that we've all been enjoying and learning from over the years. This is how we have all of this allows us to share all the emerging technology that we see both in interactive techniques and also in computer graphics. And it's a really special interest group where all of us can geek out together, share our interest in this topic, and also find new ways to advance this by working together and collaborating. And making these connections at this conference has really made that possible. We're excited to continue doing that again this year in Vancouver, and it'll be through August 8th through 11th. So I will be discussing a little bit now about the student volunteer program and then also going through what it is to be a student volunteer. So I had to do a major shout out to Diana. She is our current SV program chair. And what has made her a really great leader for this program is that she is really invested in the development of students and how can we bring more up those professional development opportunities for students in the conference. She is very active in the computer graphics industry herself and is always finding ways to make more opportunities for young professionals to grow in their careers. There are several others of us that are helping with the program. We have Ray, who is working on the portal system. We have Rogelio, who is building activities and ways for all the students to connect with each other. Gabrielle, who is handling all communications. You probably will, if you apply or interacting with emails, you probably have gotten an email from her. And then myself, as program manager, I'm helping where I can this year, and then we'll be leading the program next year. But so much of what the student volunteer program is able to provide is because of the volunteers that Diana and my other teammates on the subcommittee is able to offer. And then we also have to give a shout out to Nunu. She is our conference chair for SIGGRAPH 2022. And it ties back to what Diana also envisions for the student volunteer program this year is a sense of community and giving back to the people that make this interest group as special as it is. where we can make sure that we can share experiences, different skill sets, perspectives. And because of all that sharing and being able to collaborate together, we're able to build a better future because we're taking all of these various perspectives into consideration when thinking about this new technology and art. And what does that mean to bring those two together? What also makes SIGGRAPH just a lot of fun in general is the amount of opportunities that we have in various topics. We have an art gallery space, but it's not just like a regular art gallery. It's with all this technology behind it. We have papers where people can get a lot more technical with their research. We have a games section, another part theater just for virtual reality, a special event that does real time, and just a lot of different things that we are offering to grow and learn together. And these are broken down into various categories, both in art and design, gaming and interactives, new technologies, production and animation, and research and education. I think that part is really key of why we're able to get so many great perspectives at the conference and learning from each other, because everyone has all these various backgrounds, and especially as technology is advancing really quickly, we're able to find things that other groups are discovering and developing and bringing those together into other practices. What type of roles does that mean for others? There's managers, but there's also artists, engineers. I am a UI UX designer myself, and it's been really interesting to see all this new technology at SIGGRAPH, and then finding ways to, okay, how can I then for myself improve the experiences for users with these new findings that I just saw at SIGGRAPH. There's also 3D modelers, riggers, entrepreneurs. There's really just no limit of who can be a part of this. Just really passionate people who care about this type of interest. Which ties to the student volunteer and what type of student that we look for in these programs. So I was discussing just a moment about being passionate about the industry, interested in new technologies and innovations, looking to make not only networking, but friends, and then wanting to give back to the community, and overall just a really amazing week, because there's nothing quite like it, getting all these people that care about similar things in one space. And that would be, if you're a student, then the student volunteer program would be something to look into. So student volunteers are volunteers, also known as SVs, who are able to provide support throughout the conference, whether that's going to be virtually or on-site. There's a lot of different ways that students can be able to make contributions to the conference that makes a really great experience for everyone. For on-site monitoring doors, this is like a task that I did. I also helped check badges during my time, and it's a great way to meet other students and professionals. You'd be helping with facilitating spoken language translations, supporting various venues, helping assistants or attendees maneuver through the conference or get to the right spot, help conference management with specific tasks that should be with on-site. And the VR setup spot is also really interesting, where you get to be help set up all that VR technology and making sure that it's really easy for the attendees to enjoy it. But we also have opportunities for the virtual duties, whether that's video editing for the conference programs, reviewing video content, helping with closed captioning, review the content and also create animations and motion graphics. There's just a lot of various ways where you could have different skills, and we can probably find a way to bring that back to the conference to make every person's experience at SIGGRAPH memorable, but also easy to access. So like, this is what we're offering, the type of volunteering work that we have at SIGGRAPH, but you might be wondering what's in it for me? Like, what do I help gain from that experience? And there's a lot. We offer a highest level of registration to the conference, whether that's virtual or in person. And this allows you to have full access to the conference and be able to see all of those parts. Then there's also S3 resume, portfolio, and reel reviews. Because the S3 is another part of the conference that helps with professional development. And so they will be coordinating with us to make sure that you have an opportunity to have someone in the industry have a chance to review your material, so that way we can help you get the job too. There are special sessions dedicated to just student volunteers, and that's related to talks, having an opportunity to network with industry professionals, and then there's a lot of other surprises that we'll be offering during that week. So if this is something that you would be interested in, and we'll just be discussing more about other people's experiences later, must be over the age of 18, either in high school, undergraduate, or a graduate student that was enrolled full-time for at least one semester in the academic year, fully complete the student volunteer application, and provide appropriate documentation of your credit hours from your accredited institution, and be available from May 2022 through August 11th. But I'm not sure if we have some others in here who have been student volunteers before and are still students. But if that's the case, and you've been a student volunteer before and you're still a student, then you could be a team leader. Being a team leader was my most exciting and rewarding experience that I've had at SIGGRAPH. I'm still involved with it, but there's just something really special about the team leader program. As it's a smaller group, there is more responsibility with it because you're leading other students, but it's a really great growing opportunity, both personally and professionally as well. So for the applications, later this month, on the 21st, we'll be closing the team leader application, and then student volunteer applications will close on March 4th. For the shifts, if it's for virtual, would start around May to August. So if selected and you join us and you're doing the virtual volunteering, that's when the shifts would start going out. And then for on-site conference, it would be the 8th through 11th of August. So to complete your application, if you're interested, would be to go to the sv.siggraph.org website, and there will be a portal there where you can add all this information, as well as complete a couple essays describing why you would like to join SIGGRAPH, the student program. For questions, I will be answering questions and in a moment, but we also have a list of them on our facts and questions page. And lastly, we are have our accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pretty active, and that's where we're posting additional information or resources both for the application, but also for professional development in general. So yes, we definitely have some extra time, but happy to answer any questions, and would also love to hear if there are SVs or previous SVs, if people could share their experiences. Would love to hear those as well.
Yeah, well, thank you, Megan. We do have an active current student volunteer team leader on. So Cheryl, do you want to come in and add a couple of words about what the experience is like? And yes, I didn't warn you that I'd be picking on you. Cheryl, you'll have to unmute. Oh, I think we lost Cheryl, actually. Okay, we did. So we did have Cheryl earlier, and I didn't notice that she had left. I guess she had other opportunities, other things to go to. Kevin, did you start out as a student volunteer?
Actually, no, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
My first SIGGRAPH was back in 2001 when I was at RIT for grad school, though.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was already a professional when I joined SIGGRAPH. So unfortunately missed out on the whole student volunteer experience, but my son did and really enjoyed being a student volunteer with all of the access it gives you. Basically, one of the key things that people should understand is that SIGGRAPH it's not a 3-ring circus, it's a 103-ring circus. There are so many events going on, there's so much to go and see. And as a student volunteer, you actually get to go and meet the key people in the field and network with the other student volunteers to be able to understand, what's available, what opportunities there are, and see such amazing things. Now, the first question that we had, so I'll, though it's in the comments, but I'll repeat it anyway. So this is from Drew Park. It says, will student volunteers gain access to audit these events and or presentations? And the answer is yes. Basically, when you're not working, when you're not on shift, you have full access. So if you're participating virtually, you can take part and follow all of the events. You actually get basically what amounts to a full access to the virtual conference. When you're on site, you will have shifts. So you'll be able to see whatever event your shift places you at, but you won't be able to go out to the events of your choice. But between shifts, you have full access to everything at the conference there. So something that you should really take advantage of. A lot to see. Megan, is there anything you'd like to add about that?
Yeah, so with let me jump back to about the badges and benefits. So with the full conference badge, it would just allow you to see all of the content that's available at the conference. And those are in different mediums. So we'll have it both in person and then also in virtual. But this is also a great would be an opportunity to meet those people that are creating this content that you're learning from, meeting other professionals in this industry, and then also the peers. I would say something that's been really helpful, being a part of the student volunteer program, has been making those connections with peers in the program, and then you grow together in your careers during it. And so there's been many times where I think have reached out to each other and we're looking for other ways to grow or other opportunities, but we can go to each other on those. And so it's been a really great group of friends that you're able to lean on as well.
Yeah, if I could, I'd like to piggyback.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Could I piggyback off of Megan? Because I'm Kevin McNulty. I'm the student chapters liaison for the PSCC. So I'm kind of in charge of all student chapters for SIGGRAPH, ACM SIGGRAPH. I'm also the program coordinator for animation program here at Middle Tennessee State University. And we have our own student chapter, and we heavily push our students to be student volunteers. So I have lots and lots and lots of anecdotes of students being student volunteers and team leaders, and actually eventually even going on to other higher leadership roles, and even being some of those students. One of those students was a conference chair, Mickey Rose, a graduate of ours. But being a student volunteer, I can't say enough good things about it for you guys to apply to be a student volunteer and take advantage of this. So many of my students have now actually do have lifelong friends from being a part of the program and going back following years and being student volunteers again, and some of them going on to being team leaders. A couple of the students that were the team leaders in that one picture, 2 of them were my students. And the thing is like, you hear about, your professor saying, networking is so important. You hear the industry saying networking is so important. It's who you know, and to a degree that is very important. But it's more so the relationships and how you're building them. Not just here, let me give you a business card and I'm getting your business card and we link up on LinkedIn. Everybody's doing that. But being a student volunteer, that gives you the opportunity to actually get to know those other student volunteers and team leaders on a deeper level, to actually be friends with these people and then be friends after the conference and throughout your careers. Because you're kind of all in the trenches together. You're going through all these experiences together, and you're being put to task, and it's a wonderful, very stressful but awesome experience. And you guys really bond through this amazingly. And those are the relationships that you really want to have going out into the industry, not just a resume or not just a business card exchange, but like, oh yeah, we were student volunteers together. We spent 4 hours together on this one thing. And when you get to know somebody for that long a period of time and in sometimes stressful situations, you really get to know them. And those are really strong bonds that you'll have with that person. And when you go out into the industry and you start your careers, who are you more likely to get some help from, or who are you more likely to give help to? Somebody that you just exchanged a business card with, or somebody that you really spent some time with, got to see how responsible they were, if they were a reliable person, if they, were just professional about things and just really a good person to be around. That's the kind of person you want to hang out with. That's the kind of person that you would maybe say to your boss, yeah, this is the person we want to bring onto our team. And hopefully they would say that about you too. So by all means, please apply to be a student volunteer. It is an amazing experience. It really is.
Well, it does build bonds. I'm aware of at least one couple that met as student volunteers and are now happily married, decades later. So
yeah, myself as well.
So just interesting things to see and how it builds up close connections, but you build up connections not only with the student volunteers, but the other volunteers, the conference volunteers, who tend to be key people in the industry. So it's a great way to get introduced when you're, on site, helping somebody out. If you're helping, say, a speaker do their preparation before their talk, and you help sort out the problems they're having with their PowerPoint slides or whatever's going wrong, they'll remember you. And that, helps in your career growth afterwards. It's just amazing to see the level of contacts that you can build up while you're there. Shall we go on to the next question? So the next question was, is a portfolio necessary to have to attend this event? Meaghan, I'll let you take that one.
No, it's not necessary. However, having one handy would be really helpful, because you just never quite know who you're going to meet at that conference. I mean, I found my first job out of college through SIGGRAPH, and having that portfolio ready at that right moment when I met that specific recruiter, I just don't think that would have been possible, because then he would have had to wait for me to send it over. But that's how I was able to start my career, as well as we do have additional resources. So if you're feeling like that it needs to be perfect feeling, like, do not worry about it, because we also have this S3 portfolio review. So that way you can still have something, and then we can help you with getting it to that next level and giving that information. But again, you just really don't know who you're going to meet, and just having, it's the idea of just being there and having at least some of the tools that you have to share who you are with is beneficial.
Yeah, the key thing is to come prepared, because you will meet people who can help you out with your career. So just make sure you bring everything you need. Now, for the question, so being a total geek myself and having no artistic skills whatsoever, I was interpreting this like, no, you can be an engineer and volunteer as well. You don't have to be an artist. We have so many communities at SIGGRAPH that there's opportunities for everybody here.
For those that would actually be physically attending, because it is, hybrid, I do recommend having some kind of device that has your portfolio on it, but have that portfolio not be internet dependable, because you never know if the internet is going to go down. You don't know what the speed is going to be. So you want to be prepared, because conference centers, who knows, we're not necessarily in control of that. So make sure that you have it. And also when you're out and about in Vancouver or wherever the conference may be, you never know who you're going to run into on the street, because the whole city is going to be crawling with people attending SIGGRAPH. And our field isn't necessarily the field that you could look at somebody and be like, oh, I know that person, and the things that they worked on. We're behind the scenes kind of people. We don't want to show our face all the time. We do behind the scenes stuff. So you never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet them. I've had a lot of students get their careers started because of people they met at SIGGRAPH, not necessarily at the conference itself, but on the outskirts of being at the conference, going to some of the parties, going to some of the other kind of networking events, going on the street, walking back to their hotels. You never know. So be prepared to have a device with you, got the portfolio on there, not internet dependent, and maybe even some headphones for that person, because you never know how loud it's going to be if your portfolio requires audio. So.
Good tips. Okay, next question we have is from Ashley Chu, and Ashley has obviously served as an SV, so we'll ask you to turn on your video and chat with us as well. And Ashley wants to know if there are any tips for applying to be a TL for the first time. So Meaghan, would you like to fill that?
For applying as a TL for the first time?
Yes. Well, that's the way I'm taking it. Ashley, did I get that correctly?
Yeah, I was just curious about the team leader application and kind of like how it's different from the regular SB application. Sorry, I'm outside, so I probably can't turn on my camera super
Sure.
well, but
no problem.
Well, first, so nice to meet you, Ashley, and excited that you're interested in the TL program. It definitely has a special place in my heart because of how wonderful the experience is. But the TL application will be very similar to the SV, where there's the 3 questions, and then we just ask you an additional question for the team leader section, but about like specific leadership questions. But I think just answering honestly, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for people that are early in their careers who have an interest in growing, learning, even making mistakes to figure out how can we build towards that future. That's what we're looking for. But great question.
So the next question we've got is from June Park again. So what sort of roles and tasks will there be for virtual SVs?
So for the virtual ones, it'll be more focused on video related. So whether that's helping the uploading process, doing the closed captioning, and we're still figuring out like what the conference needs are for that time. So what specific shifts or duties that will be related to it, we are still finalizing. but we have it where it's going to be on Discord, where everyone can communicate through. And it's a great way to also, well, you be like have designated channels for the different types of shifts. And it's like a really great way to like meet other people through those, because you'll be going through those tasks together.
Okay, and the second part to the question concerning what type of portal we're using. So the question was actually asking if the software we're using is called Portal, and no, it's not, but.
Oh, for the application, yes, the
Yes.
application, I guess this is more on the technical side, but at least the application system that we have was made by the Student Volunteer Program several years ago. And this was just to create a system that was designed for students in mind. And that's it's mostly just for the application. And also if you join us at the SIGGRAPH conference, then you'll be able to see your schedule as well.
All right. So basically, there's a whole underlying infrastructure for the virtual conference. We had to scramble 2 years ago when we first did it pure virtual. So last year, things got a lot better once we had actually done it once before. And this year we'll be doing it hybrid. So there will be face-to-face events in person in Vancouver as long as COVID permits. Okay, so if we don't get yet another variant at that time, we'll be doing that, and we'll adjust as necessary as things come along. So we'll see how that works.
Quick question, Alon. Do you know what the current, again, everything could change in a week, but the kind of current immigration policies of going to another country and COVID and what all is required? Do you know any of that, Canada?
So right now, it would be difficult to come into Canada at the moment without having full vaccination and a test upon arrival. Plus, so we've done away with the isolation right now. So at first we were down with 2 weeks isolation when you first came in, which was pretty draconian because we didn't know any better. Now that we're getting used to the rapid testing and being able to get tested at the airport, if your rapid test comes in negative, then you're okay. But that will evolve. Okay, what I'm hoping, given what we're seeing, so right now it looks as if we'll hit the peak of the Omicron variant spread sometime in the next 2 weeks, and then things should come down. Then it's anybody's guess if we'll see another variant show up, right after that. The key difference right now is what we're seeing in Canada. So Canada is now 81% vaccinated, so fully vaccinated, and that's paying off in terms of what we're seeing in our hospitals and how we're dealing with it, which means that the government can also be much more flexible in terms of its entry policies. Okay. So by, the projections are that we'll be over 87% by the time we hit the summer. Okay. So it'll be at a point where pretty much everybody will be vaccinated. So think of it as, being the equivalent of measles in the States right now. Okay. Now, does having the vaccine mean that you won't get infected? Well, we've just seen with Omicron that that's not the case. Now, the symptoms tend to be much milder, but you can still die from it. So, there is some concern. I wish I had a crystal ball that would let me see exactly where things are going. But as far as I can tell, so I'm an optimist. My expectation is that we'll be back at a situation that was similar to where we were just before the Delta variant, okay, where things were starting to ease up, then Delta hit, then Omicron hit right afterwards. There may be another variant, okay? We won't be safe from that until most of the world is fully vaccinated, and we're a long ways off from that. Right now, it's the major industrialized countries that are fully vaccinated, or have a large majority of their population fully vaccinated. And if you look at the stats in Europe right now, you see that the expectation is that pretty much half of the European population will contract Omicron at some point in the next couple of weeks. Okay, that's what we're seeing, despite the fact that we have high levels of vaccination. So that's more what I expect to see by the time the summer hits, is that we may get variants and we may get lucky. There may be no dominant variant at that point. But until the world gets fully vaccinated, this will be an ongoing problem.
Yeah,
For sure,
and then
for sure.
on the
When you said fully vaccinated, I was just
Oh.
to say, when you said fully vaccinated, do you mean the 2 shots or booster as well with the 3rd?
So basically right now, what we're counting, the 81% that I gave you is 2 shots. We're nowhere near that with boosters yet. Okay, so what we did with boosters is we prioritize the old farts like me. So I've got my booster and they've just opened it up. So now the boosters are now accessible to everybody 18 and over. Okay, so that's underway, but we're nowhere near 80% of people having had their boosters. That'll change by the time the summer comes. Sorry, Megan.
So then depending on how your comfort level is, because as we're talking about, like, it's definitely not fully proved to have like be fully protected from the COVID, but just depending on it, if you feel like more comfortable not doing in person, there is a part of the application where you can list that you would just want to be virtual. So that is like an option. You can say that you are open to being either on-site or virtual, on-site only or virtual only. And we will use that to determine as well.
Good point.
I will say the in-person one, if you guys can do the in-person one, by all means do it, because there's nothing like the in-person. I mean, yeah, you're going to get all this amazing information online as well, but making those in-person connections, that's where it's at, which I miss so much.
Oh, yeah.
And I know just from past SIGGRAPHs and hearing from my students that were student volunteers or team leaders, and the amazing experiences, the additional experiences that they got because they were an SV or a TL were so awesome. I was so jealous of them too. They'd get all these special sessions from all these top companies that I know you guys love, be it Pixar, DreamWorks, Sony, all those major ones. I remember one year in, I think it was 2013 in Anaheim. At one point, there was a sign-up sheet for student volunteers to sign up to go get a tour of Blizzard, because it was not that far away from the convention center. And I'm sure you guys don't have all that set up yet because it's still quite a ways away, but those kinds of things happen when those opportunities arise of, hey, here's this awesome studio, and there's a lot of studios in Vancouver. Hey, let's go take a tour. Maybe there might be virtual tours that only student volunteers get. There's just all this extra cool stuff that I kind of wish I was a student and I knew about that as a student. I totally would have taken advantage of that, but hindsight.
Yeah, the way I look at going to the conference in person, it's like the difference between going to see your favorite band live or watching a YouTube video of when they played live in front of somebody else. It's not quite the same thing. Okay, I think we've exhausted all the questions that we had in the chat area. Does anybody have any more questions?
Hi, just a quick question. So I was a SV last year. That was my first time, and I really liked it.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, I guess just like for like this year's application, like is there any difference to like a first time application for the SV?
Well, the key thing, well, Megan, you might want to address this.
So are you saying like, is the application different between like a first time SB versus the second?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so it wouldn't, the questions are slightly different than last year, but it's not, it's just slightly different, the application, and that's for everyone, regardless if it's your first time being applying as an SB or you've been an SB before and you're reapplying. The only change that does happen in the application is whether you're applying for the team leader role, where you still have the SB questions to answer, and then there's an additional question for the team leader part.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Louis, are you considering applying as a team leader?
Like, yeah, like I would like to, but I don't know if my timeline. I don't know if my timeline will allow it though.
Okay, understood. It's just, the key thing is the requirement is to have served as a student volunteer for 1 year before. Is that correct, Meaghan?
Yes, so to have been a student volunteer for at least for 1 year
Right.
for it, and then you would have the skills to apply for a team leader role. And I believe for team leaders as well, those are also on-site and virtual is what we're looking at as well.
I think, yeah, personally, like I like since it was all online last year, I don't know if I really like had the full experience to be like a team leader. So I think I'll wait another year.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think, it was very different last year, or at least what it's been. And I'm sure like what you've gained, I'm assuming what you've gained from that experience was like being a part of something that's evolving, probably a lot of things, several things were changing and you were having to quickly adapt to it. Those are skills that we look in a team leader, just because even on site, just things are regularly changing and we rely on the team leaders to step up and help with guiding all of the student volunteers when we're needing to make those adjustments, even on site. So I wouldn't count yourself out on that. If anything, I would, if you did it last year, I actually would highly encourage you to apply it for this year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Meaghan, is it that those that apply to be a team leader, and if those people don't get it, they automatically get rolled into the student volunteer pool as well?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Here we go. Oh, okay. Two coming in right now. So what changes do you expect from pre-COVID SIGGRAPHs and this upcoming event? The in-person one in particular.
I think it'll be interesting to figure out how can we bridge the gap between two, because now we have like it's like two environments that we have. We have the in-person and also virtual. And so can we find opportunities then to bring both of those types of communities together? I think that is one of the key areas that we're looking into, just because everyone has something to contribute and share and bring to the table when it comes to this industry. And so finding opportunities to do that versus before COVID, it was all in person. But that meant that a lot of people couldn't access the conference because you would have to physically be there, versus then everyone did virtually. So everyone got to, like, regardless of location, you could join, but it's sometimes just not the same. So then how can we bring both of these types of communities together will be a key difference.
Okay, we've got another question. So it says, to gain 1 year of experience for being a team leader, how many SIGGRAPH events do you need to attend?
Well, it's not a matter of how many SIGGRAPHs you've been to, it's just how many years you've been as a student volunteer. So for myself, for example, my first SIGGRAPH and student volunteer experience was in 2014. And then I applied to be a team leader in 2015 and was fortunate to be able to do that. And that was after being at SIGGRAPH and student volunteer for my first experience.
Okay, so basically is you only have to attend one event. and the
Only
virtual
for one
events
student
count.
volunteer.
So the
So
ones
it-
that we had,
yeah.
last year and the year before, they count as experience. So if you were a student volunteer last year or the year before, you can apply as a team leader this year.
Mhm.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Well, then, Megan, I would like to thank you so much for this presentation. This was wonderful. I'm sure that everybody listening to this learned a lot, and hopefully we'll get a lot of team leader applications from people who have been student volunteers already. And just based on your experience and hearing what you described, I understand that not only is it possible, but you may end up being student volunteer chair sometime in the future if you do so.
It's like just wild to me. If you told me that when I started as a student volunteer, I would not believe you, but here we are. But I do highly encourage, thank you for having me, and I highly encourage everyone to apply. The student volunteers are just so key to this, and not just to the conference, but to the industry as a whole, because it's the next generation of great thinkers who will be able to contribute to this industry. And so it'd just be amazing to have y'all there so we can get you as early as possible into this space so you can start growing in that space and then also contribute as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you all for attending, and we'll take this to a close. Good night.
That's great. Thank you so much.